a miracle, doc, they counted me out. Moment of truth, counting it down. Underdog story was down for the count. Back on my feet, back with a mic, back on the beat, back with a family that bang in the streets. The game on lock, I stand with a key. Standing my ground, I am planning to flee. Standing my ground, I am planting my feet. Taking a stand, embracing my destiny, shaking his hand, flipping the script.
What's going on, everybody? We're back. The Sunday Night CrossFit Talk crew is back in the house after a 2-week sabbatical, unintended, but much needed. But here we are back again to talk. So before we get into much, I do want to preface a couple things. One, I got back from Dallas, had a sinus infection. My doctor is now starting me from scratch, testing everything again. So they have taken me off all antihistamines so that they can test me for what I may or may not be allergic to. So that means that I am holding back an itchy throat that could turn into a cough at any moment. So I want to start off the show with that. So please bear with me if that does happen. I'll just turn it over to the ladies if I go into a full-on fit, and they can carry the show from there. The other thing is we usually have a page where we have lots and lots of notes about what we're going to talk about, just kind of guiding us into a discussion. It doesn't have like the full discussion in it. That isn't here tonight. I have wrestled for a week on what I wanted to say. I have no idea what's going to come out tonight. This is going to be completely unscripted. We haven't even really talked this week. Generally, we are talking back and forth throughout the week, and it has been pretty much radio silent. And so it may all just come out in one big onto the air tonight. So buckle up, hang on tight, and we'll see what happens, because who the heck knows?
You know, I haven't even seen your haircut. It looks good.
Wow, thanks. Yeah, right before I left, I usually always right before like a big event get a haircut, because when it's like this, it doesn't take a lot of maintenance.
Right.
So it takes away 5 minutes in the morning of hair prep.
Yeah.
And you're always rushing.
Yes.
So yeah. And anything outside of CrossFit that you guys have been doing over the last week or so, just to kind of get away from it all? I know I've needed a break here and there. So thank goodness the NFL season's starting for me. Mm-hmm. My Chicago Bears have played preseason games, and I've been able to watch, and they've done so well, and everybody is loving what they're doing, and that has actually made me happy this week.
That's good. Lucas starts school on Wednesday. Absolutely insane. Starts his senior year. And tennis has been in full swing. They actually had a tournament on Friday. So I had a very busy Friday. Like I was up at like 4:45 in the morning to get him to breakfast before their team bus took off. And we didn't get home till like 10:30 at night. So it was over in Caledonia, a little bit south of Grand Rapids. So hour, 15 minutes away. And it was a hot day, long day. Yeah. So that was stress. My watch, gosh, you should see my like stress just watching. It's like almost more stressful for me sitting there watching him play tennis than going out on the competition floor. I was a wreck. I was like, I'm going to throw up.
Lex S. Senior, almost done. How are you feeling?
I don't know. I'm feeling stressed. It's a lot, like with him going back to school and tennis already starting, and he still doesn't have his driver's license. So I got to drive him to practices, which cuts some of my days shorter at the gym than I would like. So I don't know. I feel like my training's not where I want it to be, but that's such is life.
Yeah. Bruce says, my daughter's also a senior this year.
That's awesome.
And Jay Birch said, the first year in 25, I didn't start school. Retirement is starting off good. When do you start, Carolyne?
I go back the 28th of August. And yeah, so this week I started looking over some stuff for the beginning of the school year. But yeah, I have to be back the 29th of August. We have a PD day. And then we have a long weekend for like the Labor Day weekend. And then we don't start until I think it's September 3rd, whatever that Tuesday is.
Yep.
That's our first day back. So it'll be basically back for Tuesday, Wednesday, and that Wednesday evening, I'm back to California again for the NorCal Classic. So it's like going back for a few days and then right back to California.
Holly, on the other end of the spectrum, just started kindergarten this week.
Those were the days.
So that's a good place to start, Carolyne. NorCal Classic and Crash Crucible are like the two hot events coming up in the CrossFit schedule. I knew at one time you were considering doing both. Are they too close together to do both? Because I've seen some comments about maybe people could not do both events.
No, I think you can definitely do both.
Okay.
I think you can
Just curious.
I think people will be doing both, or if it's not Crash and like they're doing, let's say Wadapalooza, SoCal and Crash, like I think you can do multiple. It's the off season. You can always do, the month, like the end of October, November off, and then re-pick it back up in December. It's no issue.
I saw Jamie post you did some of the Crash qualifier.
I did. So I was actually going to do like all of them just for funsies, just to get some intensity and kind of, get some feedback of where I stand. But so I did Thursday, I did the deadlift wall ball one, and then I didn't even make it to the gym on Friday. And then yesterday I did Kelsu just to really trash myself. If everyone knows what that workout is, 100 thrusters with 5 burpees every minute on the minute. So I don't know. I might do it's a rough one. I might do the 7 rounds of the bar muscle up, strict handstand push up one tomorrow. Looks like I like that workout.
So I was talking to Haley and Josh Murillo after I interviewed Haley on Friday, and they were talking about how well those Crash workouts are programmed.
Yeah.
And they love JR's programming. And so they actually incorporated all the qualifiers into her training.
Yeah.
Because it was a great lead up to the Masters Games.
Yeah, I agree.
Who's programming? Is it HWP? It says presented by HWPO. What does that mean? Are they programming the qualifier, or is it JR doing the whole thing? I guess I was just confused with the presented by HWPO.
So I watched JR's show where he released them last Thursday, and he definitely programmed the entire Crash Crucible qualifier himself. He did have Taylor look at them and give some feedback. He had some other people look at them, but he definitely programmed them. I think HWPO is just a sponsor, not necessarily a programmer.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why he would outsource that. That is not what he needs to outsource.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. I was like, it wouldn't make any sense because he loves programming. So I was just confused by that because I saw it was HWPO presented. But yeah, those are some hard workouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He likes those hundreds. We had the hundreds workout last year at Crash, and I saw that. That's the one I was like, I like it, but it's longer than anything we're going to see at Masters, which we'll probably talk about a little bit. So I was like, that one's not worth me doing. It's just not even a time domain we're going to touch. But
yeah, he said that he likes those long workouts that aren't necessarily just monostructural movements. So wasn't surprised to see that first workout with the 4 movements at 100. It's like the first, like the row and the dumbbell snatch, the strong athlete will be looking at those 2, but then not necessarily like the next 2 movements, or the gymnasts and cardio people like the last 2 movements, but maybe not as much in the first 2.
Yeah. Back half a workout for sure.
Yeah. The other thing he talked about is he was asked how many games athletes were coming. And he said that, some of the people that he invited and said they were coming did better at the games than they initially anticipated. And really that this is a workout for people coming up or trying to come back, not necessarily for someone who's already on top and is currently there. And he understands that with like Rogue and the games, his event is just not big enough to like, and he understands it and he's fine with it.
Yeah.
It just gives more people the opportunity to get some exposure, which I thought was a really cool way to put it. Jeffrey Birchfield is asking, is Carolyne going to do Trifecta Rogue Challenge?
I do all the Rogue challenges, so yes. I wouldn't say I'm at my like the strongest right now, but I'll do my best.
Yeah.
What's the Trifecta this year? Is it always the same or is it always different workouts?
No, they do different workouts every month. It's a max strict press, a max front squat, and a max sumo deadlift.
Interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Is it now in those? Is it by body weight? Like, do you weigh in and it's no? Or
There's there's 3 weight divisions. Light, I think, is 121 and below.
okay.
Middle is between 121 and 168, 167.999. And then above 168 is the heavyweight. But then within that weight class, it doesn't matter after that. And then you have an hour to do all 3. And you have to like weigh, like measure everything. It takes so long to do a setup. I did the 1,000-pound challenge years ago, and just like measuring and weighing every single weight was like 20 minutes. But yeah, so every month normally it's a different challenge. Like there's not many like CrossFit challenges.
Yeah.
It's a lot more machine base or strongman stuff, and then the odd maybe an Olympic lift max or powerlifting stuff. So
All right. Well, let's get into the tough part of the evening's conversation that will hopefully allow us to move forward and into more discussion later. But the CrossFit Games happened last weekend. For those who, well, let me start with this. The tragic event with Lazar Djukic happened on day 1. Is there anything that either of you would like to say about Lazar, or I just want to give you the opportunity, since we're here tonight, to do that. I have said on a roundtable that I knew Lazar. He was the first interview I ever did on Morning Chalk Up with his brother Luca. It was such a cool interview because they were both so giddy because they had made the games together. Lazar had refused his invitation in 2019 because he felt he wasn't ready. And then when he made it back again in 21, he made it with his brother, and they were so ecstatic about that. And it will always be a very fond memory I have of Lazar, meeting him that way. And he actually was the bigger brother and did most of the talking because Luca was so giddy about making the games and giggly, and that Lazar had to do a lot of the talking and be that big brother. So that's a great memory. And I've run into him since, and he's always kind, was always such a great dude. And it's been tough for me this week. I'm not going to lie. It has been, when it happened at the games, my dad died recently, but when my dad died, I had my family around me. When this happened in Texas, I felt very alone. It's the first time I didn't take a travel companion with me. And I felt very lost and alone. And I don't think I dealt with my feelings well over the weekend. And so it's taken me the better part of a week just to kind of get through that. I did have some friends step in, and that helped during the day. But when you go back to your hotel at night and you're there by yourself with your own thoughts and own stuff, and it's not about me, it's just grieving is tough. The other aspect of that is my family grieves with laughter, right? We want to remember fondly about what is going on. And for most of the weekend, it felt like you didn't have permission to grieve with laughter, right? And and I don't even know how you can to describe that. Grant and Amanda did do that with me when we were in spots where we were kind of by ourselves and alone, but publicly you looked around for permission to do anything. And it made it almost impossible to move forward from whatever grief you were feeling. And so again, we're unscripted tonight. There's nothing down what we're going to say. But that's why it's been a quiet week from us, because it's taken me most of the week to kind of get through a lot of this. So do either of you have anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shook like Lex and I when we were watching the games on the Thursday. It's something that like you just don't expect to see, especially when, like, to me, he was like the favorite to win the event and they were so close to the finish line. And just to think on like, I can't even imagine what it was like for those athletes that were there, the fans, the volunteers, everyone that was there, because like just seeing it online, like I was visibly like shook for like a few days, and it was very difficult. I can't say like I knew him super well, but I've obviously seen him at like a lot of the competitions I've competed at, and he's always been very nice and smiley and stuff like that. And I was just always super excited to see him compete with his brother. Like I think seeing the joy of those two qualifying this year in the semifinals was, you got excited to watch them finally compete together. Like, and it was tragic. It was sad. I was angry. I was confused on just everything happening. And yeah, it had me reflecting on the fact that like, it could be anyone. And I'm not the strongest swimmer. And like when I had to even like swim the mile with the fins like that one year in 2021, like I was scared too in the water. And I just think about like, what if no one was there? And I was panicking too. So you just start reflecting on like different competitions you've done in the water and everything, and just like how it happened. It was, yeah, I mean, it was hard to watch. It's just like, yeah, it's traumatic.
Yeah, I didn't know him personally either. I've been in the same room with him, like at the 22 games when I was back there with Jim. He was one of the athletes that, so when it was all together, I would feel like the main individuals would kind of go off to their own section and stay private. And I'd say 3 or 4 would stay out in the bigger common area where your masters and teens were. And he was always out on that floor the whole weekend, like around, nodding, smiling. Like if you walk by, like he was a very sociable person, you could tell. And yeah, everyone's stories, like that you hear, you're like, yep, that's that dude. Like that's exactly how I picture him, how he was when I walked by. Yeah. And it shouldn't matter. Like he was an incredible person, and it doesn't matter who it was. It's just, it seems extremely tragic when you have a brother there in the competition with you. I mean, yeah.
So the other thing I know about Lazar is was a fiery competitor.
Yeah.
Right. I was in the media pit when he was getting no repped on the front facing handstand push-ups with the brick in 22.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he is losing his mind over getting the no reps, right? Because he loved to compete so much. And last year, infamously him and Justin had the bike wreck and the fire that came out of him there, right? So there was no right decision from the moment that happened to move forward. But I know, in knowing him, he would want to keep competing I'm pretty sure he would want to keep competing, just knowing how he's acted. And I have no problems with people saying I cannot compete further or can or whatever. But what I'm having a hard time making sense of at this point is those that did go on and compete. And there I am in Dallas and I'm watching the whole thing. At the end of the weekend, what did we get out of this? Does any of it mean anything? I don't know how it came across on the telecast, but in person, there were obviously people that even though they stayed to compete, could not compete. Right? So it was hard to do any kind of analysis over what you're seeing that we typically do on this show. Right? Moritz Fiebig could barely get to a jog on anything because he was so crushed. I can't analyze his work. There was no doubt that dude is hurting bad and he's moving down the floor at whatever pace he can. So at the end of the weekend, do we really have, and I don't even know the answer to this, do we really have a fittest on earth?
I mean, I'm of the opinion, I'll be honest, that it should have been canceled, if I'm being honest. Like, I know I wasn't there, and I don't know what it was like for those athletes to compete. I feel like there's no right way, but there's maybe better ways to go on with the weekend. I still would have had like a memorial and things that the community can still get together. But the thought of the competition was really hard for me to get behind. And I was really struggling to even watch at all anything because I was just angry all weekend. And I mean, there was athletes that were not competing. Like you said, there's athletes that are competing but are visibly crying on the floor. There's athletes that are just better able to put that aside during the 3-2-1 go. And I just felt like you couldn't analyze the competition. And quite frankly, I didn't want to. I didn't like watching. I didn't feel good watching it. And I'm sure the athletes felt, a similar way where they're competing, but they didn't really feel very good about it. And it was just, I don't know, like to me, like there was no winners. Like we all lost Lazar that weekend. And I have a hard time saying that even the programming tested for the fittest on earth, with the fact that 2 events are eliminated, one of the workouts were modified. And even with that, I didn't think the test also was as well-rounded as we've seen in the past. I just struggled with so many factors over the weekend. I think there were just other ways to move forward with the weekend without putting the athletes in that position so fast. Like even considering asking, let's say, Luca's family if they should go on. Like to me, like that wouldn't even matter. Like that, they're not even thinking about that. They just lost Lazar. And yeah, I just had trouble. I had trouble watching this, like the competition for sure.
I mean, I think Brent said this, like if there was a tragedy when he was at home, he would go to the gym and work out. That's how he would grieve. And I do think that holds true. And I do think the community needed to like come together. I can only imagine if it would have been shut down and it would have been kind of radio silent, how that would have felt like a gaping hole for the whole community. Like, I think in a way we needed to work through this. Do I think it was the best way it played out? I don't know. I mean, I hear there was talks of all kinds of different, more of an exhibition. But again, we can't judge any of the athletes' choices, regardless of what they chose to do. And at the end of the day, there was a set of tests and 2 people prevailed at the end. The women's side, I don't think was going to matter no matter what. But there was an exciting race at the end of the men's side. And we, Carolyne, we said it a couple weeks ago, last year's tests were extremely upper body pulling biased. So to say like these were a terrible set of tests or it just wasn't a complete set of tests, it is what it is. I feel like there's always something every year that somebody can say, and he's the fittest of 2024. James is.
Yeah. Like to me, it was just like, yeah, like he took, it's not James's fault. It's not anyone's fault that like competed. Like that's the thing that's tough, right? It's not their fault that people weren't, all at the same capacity to even take the test. James was the best at taking it, followed by Dallin and so forth, and same on the female side. Like that, it is what it is. To me, it was just like, I don't know, like I just had trouble that like we could still work out through things and do things as a community, but to put the competition part, I feel like, I don't know. I would have personally liked to have seen it a different way, but again, I'm not there. I'm not those athletes. I have a lot of respect for, the athletes that, decided not to compete. And I also have respect for the ones that, put Lazar's name on the floor the whole weekend. Like there's just, it was not a good scenario either way, but it's just my personal opinion and my feelings towards the competition.
Yeah, I'm kind of the belief at this point that there were a set of tests. The decision was made to move on. If you passed all the tests, you're the fittest on earth. And this year they had to deal with something much bigger than any in years past. And I will say, here I am, I'm grieving for Lazar. And then people that I really love in the space really did well over the weekend. And I felt so bad for them that for like they weren't allowed to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. James has this personality, like, and he's so deep rooted in his faith that like he'd seem to enjoy the win. But like my dear friend Emily, who makes the podium for the first time in her career, woman is 34 years old, makes the podium, and she had an amazing weekend. And they didn't even put their you guys didn't even see the award ceremony because they didn't broadcast it. Like none of the athletes felt like they were allowed to put the medal on.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part too, right? Because it's not the athletes' like fault, and they're put in a bad position. They were put in a bad position to, make the call hours after whether they were ready to compete or not. It looks bad if they post something on social media. It looks bad if they sell it. Like it's just like it's very difficult in those positions for those athletes. But again, my heart just goes out to the Lazar family, and to me, that was the most important thing of the weekend. Was just thinking about him and finding whatever way people needed to grieve. I can't judge the way that everyone did it, but like I know personally, I wouldn't have been able to continue on with the competition.
Yeah, and trust me, like Lazar has been in my thoughts for over a week. But I'm trying to find ways to move forward at this point, not forget, not any of that, but just to keep moving forward. I've heard a lot of things. These are just some random thoughts about the weekend. What got lost in this thing is there were a lot of cool improvements from a venue a media standpoint, that everything got swept under the rug because of what happened. And it should have been. It should have been swept under the rug. But that there were vast improvements this year. That arena was gorgeous. It was very easy to get into. The security was tight, other than security, but it was easy to get in and out of. My Uber dropped me off at the front door, picked me up at the front door. Super easy. They had assigned seats for media. We've never had that in the past. We've always had to wait an hour in line to get a seat to get into the arena to watch anything. The vendors were open and there were lots of them. So the lines weren't so long like they were in Madison. Alex said security was tough. Security was tough, but they say it's the same security they give Taylor Swift, the same security they give a rodeo. That's just their arena policy. And security was done by them, not by CrossFit. But it was really cool. The fact that they had counters on some of the ergs for the first time ever, where you could actually physically see.
I don't get why they couldn't have done that for Chad. To think that they were going to eliminate after the Chad event and cut the field and you wouldn't even know where you are in the race.
Yeah.
And to have no strength event even prior to that. Like there's like a lot of like head scratchers for me.
My guess is they didn't have 80 of them.
But I would have liked to have seen that counter for Chad. Because visually that looked bad.
It had 4 digits. So it could have done Chad. Even though they cut it to 250 with the way they did it. I don't think they had 80 counters. I'm with Andrew Sten. I think they had 10, 1 per lane, and used it in events where they could. Larry Young says, and I got to meet Larry, which was awesome. He liked the venue, but going back and forth to Vendor Village, he gave up on. And a lot of people did that because security was so tough. Every time you entered either facility, you had to go through that checkpoint again.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Overarching complaint was lines. I don't know. I just saw a lot of like as nice as the arena was. I saw far more comments of Madison was better, and they should have never left.
Those are people that are just angry at everything else. That the seats were not broken down. They were way more comfortable. The sight lines were better.
Yeah, but if you can't get in to watch, does it even matter?
You just have to schedule it.
Or just being closer to the vendor village and activities would probably be easier from the Madison.
There were 4 major entrances with probably 3 security lines at each entrance to the main arena. You had lots of options to go in. I never stood outside at the venue longer than 10 minutes.
You have a person, Larry, saying right here, he stopped going back and forth because it wasn't worth it.
Now, Vendor Village, I heard, was bad.
Well, that's not good because you need Vendor Village to be, you need that to be extremely accessible. You need your fans to go back and forth. Farrington Field was a disaster. People couldn't even get in.
Well, it looks like a lot of people got in. They were almost full on the one side.
It was not full. You could see that so many open seats. The
home bleachers were almost full. The visitor ones, the outsides were empty. But that seats 20,000 people. We've never had close to that at any CrossFit event. I don't even know what else here. Jay Birch, I got in.
CrossFit said the line was for Vendor Village and the football field. Main venue was already great.
Yeah, the main venue is fine. I'm telling you, it would, like, I've been to Madison a bunch of times. I would be upset to go back to that old clunky arena again after what this was. The lighting was so much better. Like, you could actually see people. My pictures came out way better than they ever have. Jay Birch, I was there. It was pretty full at Farrington Field.
That's good.
So, okay. So there's that. Anything else we want to say about the games before we move on? I do want to say, all right, I've debated about saying this all day, but I'm going to say it now. So the one thing that I've kind of decided this week is that, and it's upset me very much. So I don't know how this is going to come off, but when I feel like there's a lot of people in this community pushing whatever their thoughts were before going into the CrossFit Games, after the CrossFit Games, using Lazar's death. And parts of that are really upsetting me, right? We don't know the facts of the case at this point. There are, if you look at the ME report, there's already been a prosecutor assigned to this case. You know that this is going to go through the legal system in some way. CrossFit announced that they are putting Peter Edge, in former Homeland Security investigator, in charge of a third-party report to tell them what they did wrong. There's a lot of facts for us to learn. One of the big things that is really upsetting me is whatever your agenda was before the CrossFit Games, and I've had plenty of agenda on this show. I've talked about things that I think CrossFit has sucked at or that they need to do better. People are using this tragedy to push that agenda that they've always had.
Yeah.
There are legit beef that from what happened that weekend that you could whatever that you could take from that and move an anger position toward. I get that. Regardless, that's been very upsetting to me this week. Because one of the things that I've always complained about is that communication from CrossFit has been horrible. And during this weekend, that was on display. Media had no freaking idea what was going on at any time. We had to hear from other people whether we were moving on or not. Like if we had a connection with an athlete or a connection with, they didn't even speak to the third-party media. Our liaison wasn't even in the room until Saturday. And then a week later to say, we're not doing any more swim events until further investigation. You could have said that Thursday afternoon.
Well, I think there obviously is going to be some, I mean, in my opinion, lawsuits and stuff like that right now. And while their name is on a lot of these competitions, like they're going to want to figure out what the best, safety protocols will be going forward so that it's consistent with every event, because it's not consistent right now between every event. And to go back on your point of people using what happened to push other agendas. I mean, people have their own opinions of everything. But to me, I'm still angry with what happened with CrossFit. And it's just accumulation of things, I think, and a buildup of frustration and anger. And then there's things that we saw with our own eyes, like on the video, right? Like we know what we saw. So it's hard to be like, we're waiting for investigation A, B, and C to get done. Like, obviously there's a lot more information missing, but we still saw a lot to still make like our own, not opinions, but our own, I guess, judgment, I guess, of it. Yeah. And I don't know what the answer is to everyone else, or people, not everyone, but possibly pushing other things. Like, it just should all just be about athlete safety, Lazar's family, and how we can prevent this from ever happening again. Because in all honesty, we have been so lucky that this has not happened before. When I look back on some of the competitions that I've had swimming very early in the morning for certain groups, not enough people in the water, and other things, like, to have consistency between the competitions, I think can only be good. And I'm hopeful that, some positive can come out of this to protect the athletes going forward. And it doesn't mean eliminating everything. It doesn't mean swimming can't come back, because people are like losing their mind over that. Swimming can come back, but I think it's having consistency between each comp. And some comps will be like, oh, we've done it this way and we've never had anything go wrong. It doesn't mean because you have had nothing go wrong that your competition has had the perfect also protocols, because that's not the case also. So just to have, maybe bring in more people, bring in some experts and figure out what works best, and to have it consistent will be very important going forward.
In no way am I saying that. And like, I understand athletes have the right to be angry. Like you said before, you're not a strong swimmer. Like, would they have gotten me? Would they have, like, I get the anger there. And so it's more from other directions that I'm, and I don't know. There's two things. I'm upset that the people are using a man's death to push an agenda that they've always had. And I also feel like I saw a lot of non-authentic people this week. And with that, I was hurt, because some of those people I never thought I would see be inauthentic. And the one thing Lazar always was an authentic human. And to use his death in a way that is inauthentic just really hurt me. And I've been struggling with all week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think there's been with some of that stuff, because there was lack of communication, there's been a lot of talk and chat and chatter here and there without names being said. So then people are just judging people. And I don't like that at all.
Yeah. You don't have to say names. You can go through Instagram and you can pretty easily tell who is being inauthentic and not. So, yeah. So those are the things that I wanted to bring up. I think we've covered all the news from the games. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Or we can move on to, I think, in my hope, we're moving on. I want to move on to a competition that may help us move forward. A competition that represents what CrossFit was founded on, and that is to make people healthy late in life, to be able to play with their grandkids, to be able to get off the toilet at the age of 65, to do those things. And what the origins of CrossFit were about. And that is the Master CrossFit Games that are coming up Labor Day weekend. Our very own Jamie Latimer is going to compete I saw you got your shirts in.
Yeah.
Have you been able to get them out to everybody?
I think everyone, Craig's in the chat. I'm curious if he got his. I think Holly was here. Curious if she got hers. Yeah, I think pretty much there's like, I still have like 10 at the gym that people need to come in and pick up, but I mailed them all out. Craig got his. Awesome. Take a picture in it, Craig. Tag me. I love to see them on people.
With that, you had a meeting with the organizers.
We did. We had a like 30-minute informational meeting on Thursday. I think Tuesday or Wednesday, we received a like athlete packet with some heat times, basically a general schedule. And so it was pretty clear from that email that there's 10 events. We have 3 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, and 2 on Sunday. Obviously no swimming. All in the convention center. They did say, because people were asking, will we be going outside? Do we need to be prepared? They said there was one event, probably something like when they did Helena last year for the individuals, like running like a 200 or 400. We didn't get details, but he said you will run outside the venue and back in and do some stuff for 4 rounds. So that's our only exposure to the outside air that we'll get. Otherwise, we're inside the venue the whole weekend. 55 plus only has 8 events. So there's 2 events that just the younger age groups have. Whether it's a ability, capacity, just volume tolerance. One of them is Thursday's first workout for us. It's a 3-minute workout. So assume what you want from that. And then, they're kind of short for my liking. We have a 2-minute event, a 3-minute event, a 5-minute event, 2 8-minute events. So half of our events are 8 minutes or less. And then we have a 11, 12, 13, 15, and 18 minutes is our longest event.
And those are the cap times, not
correct. And it could be a 4 round for time with 18-minute cap. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I know that when that came out, you weren't the most excited friend I've ever had, because you like those long, grindy chippers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because they have way too many people. Yes.
Yeah.
They confirmed that they did all the programming. So I don't know. I think we all thought maybe Castro or Boz would have some say in this, and it doesn't appear. I don't think they got. Haley asked on the Murillo asked on there if there would be like handstand ramp or anything we needed to prepare for, and they said no. Like they tried to get some stuff. Basically they said it's going to be very like everything you can find in your everyday gym. So again, I just feel like the budget cuts like don't give us much. We just get what we get, and it is what it is.
So Andrew Sten, who is a part of that leadership group for Master, says CrossFit did have input.
Oh.
One thing that surprised me, going back to the games, was the similarity with the team workouts and the individuals this year were much closer, I think, than in the past. So I was wondering maybe the Masters would have some sort of carryover, possibly 1 or 2 events. I'd just be curious if we would see something like that.
Yeah, I was very curious too. Like, I mean, that's why I tried to pay attention to the individuals, just to glean anything. Would there be a workout that we would do like the Dickie's triplet or something like that? Like, could that be the one we see? Yeah.
Because that would be interesting to see a trickle like down effect between all the divisions. Then there's like a comparison throughout the ages. on a certain baseline workout.
Yep.
Yeah. And just remember the Sean Woodland and Chase Ingram are calling the Masters games. So you're getting an A team in there calling the stream. It's not the iPhone 5 from the roof. It is an actual professional stream.
Yeah.
With really good announcers. Tommy Marquez and Lauren Khalil are doing the floor stuff, I believe. So yeah.
There's 3 floors. I don't know how that will look broadcast wise.
I
don't
looked
know
at
if
the
they're
layout of the arena or the convention center, whatever.
Mhm.
Like there's 2 distinct areas. I don't know where you're squeezing in a third, unless it's like for maybe that 3-minute, you know what I mean? Like something you can just kind of run through.
Yeah. So it sounds like from what he said, one of the floors is going to look like that side floor at MFC, Just Lanes. And then one of the floors has a large normal rig, probably your 15-foot rig with ropes. And then one of the floors has your smaller A-frame rig. So one is just going to be like those lanes, just like at MFC. So that'll be probably a much smaller area.
Okay. It's going to be tough covering all those floors.
Yeah. And so like, I'm kind of curious, does like floor 3 is the small, no equipment floor essentially. Does that not get a camera on it? Does that one not get broadcast? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's no obstacles, John.
Well, they could do cones versus the stairs, like a zigzag.
Yeah.
You did the ramp at Crash last year.
Yeah.
Me. I saw it.
It wasn't great.
My own 2 eyes. It was the first time you'd ever attempted it.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done it since. What do you know, John? Share.
Is there more leaks in the Masters than the individuals? Because
if you know, someone else knows. Share with the rest of the class.
Also, that's ridiculous again with the leaks that happen. But again, not surprised. I say it every year that there's leaks.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say one more positive from the games weekend? I really enjoyed the 200-meter run inside the arena.
Yeah.
I like that so much better than an assault runner or anything like that. And it visually, it looked really good. So easy to tell who was in first, who wasn't.
Yeah, anytime you can have a foot race and you can see where you're at, it always looks good.
Now, the bumping and the rubbing and racing happened a lot on the men's side for sure, and a little tiny bit on the women's side.
Yeah.
So, we're super excited. We're going to be there for the entire weekend. Hopefully I can get Carolyne on in the evenings to do wrap-up shows with me from there. Jamie will be competing, so she'll be a little bit busy. Maybe she'll pop on for 5 minutes and just give us an update of the day. But we have our team together for the behind the scenes, which is now officially going to be myself and Ellie Hiller will be doing the interviews in the back. Jonathan Ortega and my friend Caitlin Walters will be doing the video of the floor. And Holly will be doing all the stats and graphics for the behind the scenes. So hoping to put that together. Still looking for a couple more sponsors. Hopefully we'll get some, but yeah, super excited about that. And the Masters community is so excited for it. And I've had so much fun talking to them.
You're killing it with the interviews.
So much fun. The bad thing is, generally when I interview somebody, we go off air and then we chat for a little bit. These these athletes want to chat.
Yeah.
Haley and Josh, like, I'm like, guys, I have an interview in like 3 minutes. I've got to go. But they're just the sweetest people, man.
Is Haley going back to Crash?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think they have Masters this year, do they?
Yeah.
They do?
Well, JR asked me if I'm coming back, so.
Okay, maybe she is. We didn't really get into it. They just they were bragging on JR's programming.
Yeah.
And they're doing all the qualifiers, so maybe.
Yeah.
But she doesn't feel like she's really in shape because she's been a coach more than an athlete.
Oh, she's working out alongside Haley. She's incredibly fit.
She said to me that it appears that way, but there's a lot of stuff she could not hang with Haley. And so she didn't even try. But there was stuff that like Haley needed to push on. And so Haley Maria would jump in and push her. But yeah, so we have that coming up. Then one interesting thing I saw is Rogue is developing an Echo rower.
Yeah.
Like, because they took away the easy bike by making the Echo bike. Now they're going to take away the easy rower.
The easy bike.
Do you think it's going to be like the assault runner style or the assault rower style, or?
I don't know.
I'm curious.
Yeah. It's probably just going to be made so strong that like it's indestructible.
The C2 rower already is indestructible. You don't need to mess with a good thing.
They want to take over the world, Pinky.
The gyms are all outfitted with C2 rowers. That is the standard. Like, we do not need another piece of equipment. Gyms have invested thousands of dollars on 20 plus rowers. And then you want to throw in this other piece of equipment? No.
That's a great point. All right. Well, Wodapalooza SoCal has also announced their partnership with the PFAA. So they are partnering. This is not new. Wodapalooza Miami did that in January. Now SoCal's doing it for their competition in September.
That's good. I mean, I think more comps will pull them in. I mean, they're being pretty outspoken, so.
Rogue needs more money, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's good for the PFA to be in talks with competitions, or at least have some sort of athlete union always in talks for stuff. The thing that's very interesting about our sport, and I was talking to Lex today about this, is like most of the unions in sports, like the workouts are known, or the competition is known, but we're in a sport where stuff is unknown. So certain athletes, let's say in the PFAA, would have access to information maybe earlier than others. Obviously shares it with the rest, but it's just an interesting difference of our sport because of the whole unknown and conversations that have to happen with the PFAA. But regardless, I think it's important to have athletes that know the movements, knows the risks involved with certain like competitions. So I think that's a good move by Wodapalooza.
Yeah, I think it's a good first start. I think there are ways around it, and we can get into this in the off season when we have a lot where we can talk about directions. But a lot of unions will put together like a third party committee where both sides get to put the members of that committee together to come to an agreement, right? So it's not the actual players or the owners. It's this third party that comes up with it or approves it, who aren't directly involved, but they're elected there by both sides of the negotiating table. I didn't realize that the C2 really wasn't indestructible. Apparently, Wad Zombie has ripped the handle off a C2 rower twice.
That's crazy.
Before my back injury, I would move a rower across the floor.
Oh, I've
when I
seen it.
rode,
Yeah.
Right. I've never broken
Yeah.
a rower. Never. Wad Zombie's a beast if he's done that.
Props to you, Nick.
I did snap it's like the little curvy piece that goes into the handle. So we just had to replace that one piece. I did crack one of those ones. That's because Nick is strong. All right. Any last thoughts for tonight?
10 more sleeps.
10 more sleeps. When are you getting down there?
I'm gonna leave Tuesday morning, but I think we're gonna stop somewhere Nashville-ish, maybe a little before that. Sleep there and then get back up in the morning and go the rest of the way. And we don't need to be there before like noon. We can't check in till 4, and I don't think my check-in is till later afternoon at the venue.
Do you know? Oh, go ahead, Carolyne.
Will they announce any workouts before? Did they say anything about that? If they'll release anything? And then did they talk about the uniforms for you guys? That's my 2 questions for you.
Oh, yes. We are getting workouts released starting Monday was the plan. Most likely the first one they're going to release is the one that they said would have the running. So that's probably the first one we'll hear about. And they'll probably, he said they would not announce them all, probably leave 2 to, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the secrecy. So all week we should get a workout essentially. And then, obviously they've heard all the complaints about the uniforms. So the solution is that we can buy more Northern Spirit apparel if we would like. We can wear any Northern Spirit apparel on the floor. So we can go to the booth and buy more.
But it is mandatory for every event.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you had 10 events?
Mm-hmm.
And 3 uniforms? Or was it more that there?
Yeah, I believe it's 3 because it wasn't even enough for each day. Like it wasn't even 4 outfits. Yeah, 3 outfits.
Do you have laundry?
No, I don't. I have a sink. At least if you're going to acknowledge that, at least give like a 50% off coupon for the Northern Spirit booth or something. Just be like, we're trying to do what we can. Here's a discount to get some more apparel items. There's just a lot of you, and that was our budget. And I would at least respect that, just to be like, well, come spend more money if you like. It's frustrating. Everything about this seems like a money grab.
Lex says having to buy more is ridiculous.
Yeah. Or like and I didn't speak up, so it is kind of, it's not fair of me to say this now really, but I would, if you're acknowledging there isn't enough uniforms, but you want it to look good, like at least pick your like prime time events and just say, hey, your evening event, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you have to be on the floor in Northern Spirit. Like those are the 4 events you must wear. And we ask that you can for the other events as much as possible. But we acknowledge that, some stuff might be dirty but just pick the like main events that like are going to showcase our sport the most and that are your prime time hours on YouTube. I don't know. That would be my solution, but I get it.
Andrew Sten says that's on Northern Spirit and CrossFit, not Legends. I know that for us to be on the floor, we have to be doing behind the scenes. For our people on the floor, we have to be in Northern Spirit wear as well. So hopefully they supply us with at least some.
Yeah, you'll probably get more than us.
We'll find out.
We also lost our ice bath sponsor, so there's no ice baths.
Who was the ice bath sponsor?
I think Chili Goat. And the other information we got was that they currently don't have any like Arasti isn't coming. They're working on getting somebody, so hopefully we do. But yeah,
You guys are the ones that need it the most.
I know.
All the tape, all the everything, the foam rolls. Like I see Masters at the Games on day one. Half of you guys have like all taped up shoulders and knees.
Yup. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually, it sounds like all they're going to do, Boulder, Jason Grubb has offered to bring in, like, I think he has a few tubs, and so, like, those will be available, but you're talking 500 plus athletes using 3 or 4 tubs. Like, yeah.
Oh, tubs. I thought Jay Birch was talking about duct tape, binding twine.
Oh, I was thinking the metal, like, troughs.
I was thinking the stuff to hold the athlete together. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, we're heading out, I think, Tuesday evening.
Okay.
Going as far as we can so that we can be there for check-in to start the behind the scenes at check-in. And I think Ortega's going to be there sometime that day, and Caitlin will be there sometime that day. So yeah, we should get rolling right about then. But yeah, super excited about that. Super excited to meet all these people I've met online over the last month and a half, to get to meet them in person. But, you know, I was really upset about the 40 in the lower divisions when it first came out. But some of the people I've talked to are in that 40th position, and they're the coolest people.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
So Lex is asking, what's your plan for releasing content behind the scenes? Well, I'm going to put it behind a paywall. No.
Like, subscribe. You gotta have premium.
If I ever would do that, it would just be for like a day or two.
Yeah.
But the plan is to have an episode for every event and for check-in. So it should be an 11 episode behind the scenes and one for each event. And then the one being 3 minutes, we may have to tweak that a bit, but that's the kind of the gist. And I'm hoping to do one a week minimum after we get back. Oh my gosh. What about the bad timing of the CrossFit Talk trailer coming out the week after this year's games? Someone needs fired.
It was free. They didn't pay for it.
Yeah. My goal is to like get some good stuff at check-in and start working on that Wednesday night, because I'll have some time.
Are you doing it all by yourself, like putting everything together, or are you working with one of your people that are going there?
So I think Ortega and I are going to do all the editing. He's going to do all the workout stuff. I'm going to do all the interview stuff, and then we'll combine it into that's the agreement I've made with him. So anyway, we can work on that check-in one, which would be episode 1. I can start working on it Wednesday night because I'll have time, because check-in doesn't go that late. And then just start piecing together stuff. And then when I get home, then I can start working on episode 2 is kind of the plan. So episode 1, the week after, and then just start going at least one a week. It might be more than that if we can get on a good roll. So, but yeah, super excited about it. And I know like Holly's super fast at the graphics, the leaderboards and stuff. She'll put all that in there. But we have a lot of age groups to cover.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Have I sent you the heat sheet? Like
No.
it's just you need to like separate yourself between the 55 plus and the 35 to 54. Really, like
Okay.
you need two of you is what I'm saying.
Okay. With that, make sure, everybody hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifier. You know all the things. Because we're back. We'll be doing these every week. Hopefully we'll have a better script going forward. But next week we'll be less than a week away. We'll be like 3 days away from Masters Games.
And teenagers.
And teens, yeah.
And teens, yeah. And then we've got adaptive after that with SoCal the same weekend. So we have that. Then almost immediately into Rogue. So things get crazy over the next few weeks. And hopefully that helps us all move forward. So thank you, everybody, for listening to us tonight. Sorry if we rambled a bit. But again, like, subscribe to the channel. We love you all. Thank you so much for always supporting the show. And because we love you and we love that you're here every week with us. With that, we will see everybody next time on Sunday Night CrossFit Talk. Bye, guys.